I'm going to use these few minutes to tell you more about what Shannon explained. In the last 150 years, the civilization has been based on fossil fuel exploitation. In this very brief period, we've been extracting and consuming more and more energy resources that are non-renewable, which Mother Earth took millions of years to develop. Globally, these non-renewable resources represent 92% of energy used, and out of this percentage, 82% are carbon fuels such as gas and petrol. Hydrocarbons are not just a driving force for change, but they've always been associated with concentration of power. Nobody can deny that there's the largest concentration of transnational companies. Out of these, probably the oil companies are the most powerful. These exhaustible resources, which are specifically found in certain parts of the country, will come to an end. That's why fracking has started. Oil companies are not interested in developing new alternatives compatible with with natural cycles. They, on the contrary, try to extend the useful life of fossil fuels. And that's where fracking comes into play. This energy is very similar to open pits mining or mega mining. And it's just like open pit mining looks for certain low-quality minerals. Fracking goes for non-conventional minerals as well. Fracking wants to extract every last drop of energy of Mother Earth. It wants to crush Mother Earth as a woman down to death. It wants to extract everything from its very entrails. It's a perverse practice. So we're going to describe the situation in Argentina a little bit. Argentina has blindly and completely randomly gone into non-conventional hydrocarbon exploitation or fracking exploitation, and it's done it through one of the worst companies in the world, associated with Chevron. So, we have a criminal that left Ecuador that arrived in Argentina with a perverse system. We have the worst technique with the worst possible company. So the Vaca Muerta drilling area has the same characteristics as El Dorado. And there's a certain consensus of fracking which gathers governments and opposition. All media seen Vaca Muerta as the salvation of our country. And this is to consider not just the communities that live there, but least of all, the rights of Mother Nature. Neuquén is one of the most affected provinces, as is the Rio Negro province. These are some of the main scenarios for this struggle. And there's a multi-sector, a multi-actor complex scenario, and various views and opinions on what's happening on the territory can be seen. Vaca Muerta has created the illusion that there's nothing at the top. It seems to be a desert. And this is to do with the conquest of the desert, which is very much rooted. But in fact, it was a massive genocide of indigenous peoples, such as Patagonia, for example. For people, it was a desert. So it was conquest, and this was because they wanted to advance this modern society, even though this killed many indigenous peoples. The Mapuche community has at least 200 gas and oil wells, and the first one in Latin America, the first fracking well in Latin America, was within the Gelaico community, which is a Mapuche indigenous community, which is in Neuquén as well. Of course, the 169, the Convention 169 was not used, which refers to prior informed consent. The harassment of the and persecution of the Mapuche community are commonplace. Recently, over a year ago, Cristina Lincopan was killed. She was only 30. She was a great activist against the effects of hydrocarbon, and she had an issue to do with lung hypertension, which was clearly linked with oil extraction and exploitation. So defenders of the rights of nature are stigmatized, they're deemed, they're labeled or branded as terrorists and criminals. Approval of the convention between IPF, an Argentinian company, and Chevron was done by the lawmakers of the Neuquén province, and over 1,000 demonstrators were repressed. The police spent 8 hours repressing us non-stop, and thousands of rubber bullets and tear gas were used to stop us from complaining. There were advertising campaigns, including a special issue of the National Geographic magazine talking about the good elements, the good sides of fracking. There were even the Petrol and Gas Institute, Argentinian Gas Institute. These organizations were created to give the impression that fracking is safe. So history repeats itself. What Shannon is telling us keeps on happening. All those photos that you saw there might as well be of Argentina. And I say any photo because fracking in Argentina is not only advancing on Mapuche territory, but also it's attacking and affecting fruits and vegetables, apples and pears, historical areas where these have been grown for 100 years with top quality fruits across the world. Fracking wells are being placed right in the middle of these chacras or big farming estates. The Mapuche community, in a meeting that we held, said to a farmer, Mapuche said to a farmer, "You farmers are the new Mapuche people because of how this is advancing and affecting you." Ashen is the town where these apples and pears are cultivated, has 30,000 people in a very fertile valley of the Argentine Patagonia. And as I said, the fracking wells are entering every single one of these farming estates, 6,500 hectares of crops. There's a matrix of hundreds of years old that is being completely displaced. Currently, there's at least 160 wells across this area among pear and apple crops. And there's also multi-well well platforms where fracking is taking place as well. Ashen is a clear example of these problems. Also the hegemonic discourse and regional economy being displaced by fracking. Truth is that that fracking extraction dislocates the prior fabric of society. In addition to the rights of nature, it violates others to do with quality of life because it disrupts activities on a large scale, and there's major structures of inequality. So it makes the cost of life higher because there's all these workers that are taking part in this, and other issues are also exacerbated. But I'm coming to an end. In Argentina, fracking has the same characteristics of the expansion of transgenic soy, which is basically displacing and attacking everybody's ways of lives. Same way as open pit mining. Everything has to be commodified, even the entrails of the earth. That's what fracking is about. It's when kids are sucking up all the very last drops of juice and there's that noise. That's exactly what's happening right now. We're sucking up every last drop of energy. We want to grow at all costs, even using the worst of techniques. The regulatory frameworks have adapted in Argentina the same way as they did in the United States. In Argentina, environmental legislation was modified so that fracking could take place. So, and to finish off, this consensus of fracking, which gathers, as I said, almost the whole of the political and journalist spectrum, reaffirms the very worst, the dependence on fossil fuels, but also dependence on major transnational companies that are behind all of this. They lead us blindly into the exploitation of non-conventional hydrocarbons, which don't only need areas of sacrifice, because we're sacrificing communities and areas for the profit of these major transnational companies. So fracking consensus admits no dissidence, no protest, and no challenge. That's why I would like to formally ask the tribunal to bear in mind the characteristics of fracking so that we can have a judgment in this respect.